Okay, so guys, we are going to translate the figure. It's a quadrilateral in this case. We have MN, PQ. So, and they give you the number of units that we need to translate. 7 units left only, and later we are going to reflect. Only that, the important thing that I'm going to explain you when you reflect over one line that is in the middle of the figure, in the middle of the figure that x equal -3. Okay. So I think that I'm going to need to draw the axis. I'm going to try to draw the axis maybe. Okay. And for the other part, we have okay. Maybe it's not perfect, but it can help us to understand the movement for the figure. Now I'm going to use the ruler. Okay, the figure is a quadrilateral, so it starts like this. Later is bigger. In here is bigger than in the top. So I think that it would be like this. Okay, I think that the figure is something like this. It's not completely, it's not a rectangle, it's a quadrilateral only. So this side is smaller than this side, okay? The important thing is that you translate the figure 7 units. So if you count the number of units, for example, you start in here in 2 for x. 2 for x, so if you move it in here, this is 2 for x. So if you move it 7 units, you subtract 2 minus 7 because it's to the left, okay? Then it's going to be located in -5. -5 for this, okay? So if you draw the figure again, you are going to have in this part something like this. Remember, it's the same figure, okay? What I'm going to draw is the same figure because I only move the position. I only translate, so it's only to move the position. It's not going to be the same size because I don't have the measures, okay? The correct measures for this, but you need to imagine that they have the same measure, okay? You translate this 7 units. So translate the figure 7 units left, okay? The U is 4 units. But they ask you to reflect this figure. So we already passed this figure to the other side, but we need to reflect it. But we don't reflect it using the y-axis or the x-axis. No. They ask you to reflect it using the line x equal -3. That is going to be located like in here. Okay. 1, 2, 3, like in here. If this is x -3, like I told you guys, if you want, you can draw an imaginary line, for example, to represent, so you don't confuse when you need to reflect the figure. You can draw the line of reflection. So for example, in here, you can draw okay, something like this, right? So you only need to determine where are you going to reflect the figure. The line is passing through the figure, okay? X equals -3 is a line. Remember, this line continues below and continues, okay? In the other part, on the top and in the bottom of the plane. you are going to reflect the figure using the same number of spaces that you have. You can see that there are 4 spaces. You start the figure in -1 and finish in -5. The figure starts in here, at this point, okay? This is -1. So these are the space that you are going to take to rotate the figure. You cannot, for example, rotate it more in here or in here because you are rotating the figure through the center, okay? Through the center of the figure. I'm going to write the name for the points so you don't, you can identify. This is M, this is N, this is P, and the other one is Q. Okay. M again, M, N, P, and Q. But I want to rotate this, and how I'm going to rotate this, guys? Again, you can see that this is the only space that you can have, so I'm not going to take more space to rotate the figure. I'm going to use these 4 parts, 4 units that I have in the grid, and I'm going to reflect the figure. This point, if I turn this figure on the other side, is going to be located in the other side, right? In here, okay? But this point have to be located like in here, at least, or more to the left, maybe. Because you are going to draw the same figure, but in the other, okay? In the other way. The other point, this, that is below in here. Because this, you are going to project it in the same way, okay, in here. This point, you are going to draw it like in here, for example. And you start completing. You want to use a different color, because if you use the same color, you are going to confuse and you are going to have a complete mess with one figure over the other one. Okay, so we can complete in here. This is this line, for example. Later, the other line is going to be connecting these 2 points. This is going to connect this point with this one. And the last point that we need to connect is this one. So it's like you translate the figure, but again, like I told you, using the same space, you cannot take more space. If you only start with 4 grids from -1 to -5, you rotate it in that space. It's only to turn the figure in the other position, okay? And now I'm going to write the name for the points. In this case, this is going to be P. I'm going to write P prime. This is Q prime, M prime, and N prime. If you want, you can erase this, that is in green color. But I'm going to let the 2 colors in there so you can differentiate one and another. Okay, and the other one. Okay, so about this first part, I don't know if you have questions. You remember they are already on the book, but I'm trying to explain you the concepts and why they do some things in this kind of examples, okay? So I don't know if you have something to ask until this first exercise. Okay, so we can go to the second one. I think that the second one can be a more tricky. We can describe a sequence of transformations. So they give you the transformation already, and you describe how we move, what kind of transformation is that we did in the problem for the figure. So if we describe a sequence of transformations, I'm going to draw the figures in the coordinate domain. Okay. I'm going to erase the figures, this, so I can draw the other ones. I'm going to erase the numbers too, because I don't know if I'm going to need something else. I have this, but I don't know if it's too big. No, this is going to help me. Okay. I'm going to use the different colors like appears in the book, so you can see the difference. The first one, only that I don't have blue color, so I'm going to use the green. The first one is going to be located in here. Okay, I only need to complete in here. The figure is like a triangle, right? It's a triangle. And the other part is in here. So we have it in here and we have it in the other direction now. But, okay, something like this. I need to move. Okay. So at least you have something similar. It's not completely exact, the form, but you know that it's a triangle and that we need to identify the transformation that we did. So how can you know this, guys? The book, for example, they give you the information that in the step 1, we translated 8 units and later we move it below. In here, for example, guys, you can see the number of spaces that is taking this figure. It starts in -6 and finish in -3. So we only take 3 spaces. You can have 2 ways to differentiate this. For example, the number of units that you move below, they are 6 units. So down 6 units. I'm going to write it in here, the facts that we have. Looking at the figure, okay? I'm not talking about the information that the books give us when they already solved the exercise. I'm talking about the information that we can see, okay? We have both figures and we count one by one the number of grids, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we find that we move 6 units each point. And only give me 1 second, I'm going to write the number of the points and the vertices. A, B, C. The other one is A prime, B prime, and C prime. A prime, B prime, and C prime. Okay. Can I move the figure directly in here, 6 units? It's going to be located in the other direction, okay? It's going to be located like this if I move it below. But I don't know the exact point or the exact line that we can use to reflect the figure. Like the previous exercise, remember? We had 4 units, so we know that in the middle of the figure, we can reflect it, so we are going to have it in the other position in here. I don't know what is the line that we are going to use to reflect this. If I only reflect it in the x-axis, it's not going to help me neither because point A is going to be located in here if I reflect it, so it's not what I need. Can you see? So in this, guys, it's about your logic. You need to identify the problem and count one by one the number of bits that you move, okay? And identify how can you use the axis or how can you use one imaginary line. Maybe you can write another line of reflection. In this case, if we use a line of reflection, it's going to be something like 1.5 units or something like that, okay? So I don't want to use this when it includes 0.1, 0.5, sorry, or something. So I can move it, but first I need to move it to this side. Later, I pass it below, and later I can reflect it using the y-axis. I'm going to write the name for the axis. I didn't write it, I'm sorry. Y, this is x. Okay, why I'm going to pass it first to this side? Because if I change the position, if I translate it, I can manage how many units I want to translate it. Okay, so if I say that I'm going to move it, the number of units, so we can have the same spacing here, when I reflect the figure using the y-axis. Okay, so it depends on you. You are going to use to your convenience because we want to obtain this figure. Okay, we want to obtain this figure, and you can see that it's separated. In the point C, it's only separated 1 unit from the. Okay, C is in the other way. Okay, in the other way. So I project the figure first in here. I'm going to draw it in the other side. I move the figure. It's like projecting all the points. This point, you are going to pass it to this point. It's only translated, remember? And this is going to be C. A, B, C. So you start this translation. You have something like this. Okay, you move it. In the book, they draw the lines, so you can have in here, okay, all the points. But what is the problem with this? That is not what I need. If I reflect, I'm going to have it in here. Using the x-axis, I'm going to have it in here. And I need it in here. So I need to translate again my figure to this part. And again, how many units I move it? I move it the number of units that are going to help me to obtain this. So if I say, for example, that this is separated only 1 unit here, I'm going to obtain 1 figure. Okay, I'm going to move it the number of units so I can have it only 1 unit separated in here. Because when I rotate it, I can obtain the figure that I need. Okay. So I project again this figure below. I'm going to project it below. Okay. And later I'm going to reflect it using the y-axis. Okay. So then what I have is again this figure. Okay, maybe guys, this is more like I told you, when they ask you to describe the figure, you can find different ways to obtain it. But if they ask you to move the figure, I am sure that you are going to be able to do it perfectly. Okay. So you can see we cannot pass since here through this point directly. So I need to move it first, and I project it in here. Why I project it in here? Because now I can use the y-axis. The y-axis is going to help me to reflect the figure, okay, in the other side, okay. Only that remember the figures that I use is for this, okay. So it's not going to have the exact figure that we have on the book. But you need to imagine, remember again, you need to imagine that the figure that I reflect is going to be the same in the other side. But in this case, it's going to be, the figure has to be something different, okay? Okay, but the form of this thing is that. So that's the exercise. I don't know if you have some questions about this. Maybe about this you have. Then
yes,
I'm going
Mister,
to, okay, just give me 1 second.
Al momento que movamos una figura, al momento de que movamos una figura, nosotros debemos moverlo, pero con a medida de los units. O sea, yo creo que el lector que hizo ahorita usted es de 8 units, entonces nosotros tenemos que mover a medida de los 8 units. Así.
8 units, because the idea is that you need something to reflect the figure. So if you use the x-axis, it's not going to help you. So first you translate to the other side, later you move it again down, and later you use the y-axis to help you to reflect the figure in the other side, okay? So when they ask you to describe the transformations, okay, maybe you can have different values. You can translate using x-axis, only that is not going to be completely in x. You can translate this figure maybe to here, and later you reflect it about a line that it could be, for example, in the middle, in here, or in here. But like I told you, it's going to be more complicated. In here, there are more steps, but you are sure in the procedure that you are doing, okay? So that's the idea, that you, even though you have more steps, you are sure that at the end you are going to use this to help you, because we know that if in here I have only one unit separated from the axis, I have to keep the same space in the other one. Remember, and why I need to keep the same space? Because the line of reflection has to be in the middle of the reflection. Okay, so the same distance that you have from one side has to be in the other side. Okay, so I can use the x-axis. So when I translate this figure, I try to keep the same distance in the other side, okay, of the figure. So I can use the y-axis to reflect the figure. Okay. This kind of tricks you are going to discover only doing more exercises. When you practice and you see how you can reflect the figure. I'm going to stop the recording, guys, okay, for today class.